Thank you very much. And I think that gives a really good example of a sort of a new type of project that I was talking about earlier, that is based on a model of usership rather than spectatorship. It's yeah, really fascinating. I was wondering, I mean, from the photographs it looks like it's very well used, this centre, and I was wondering if that's true, what your usage levels are like from both your sort of community of asylum seekers and the local community of residents. What sort of, how many people use the space? Is it well used?
Well, we just opened, I mean, when we had the temporary trampoline house with 50 to 100 visitors a day, there were all these expectations that we should go permanent and work to find a permanent space, but that has taken us almost a year, and of course during that year a number of the friends from the first project have been deported. Most of the Iraqi have been deported. A few, and I can count them on one hand, have been granted asylum, and others are still stuck in the centers. So there's a few of the old timers still involved in the project, and what we're working on now is this very difficult outreach work in order to even create the trust needed to convince asylum seekers and refugees living underground to enter a space. You have to convince them of two things. First of all, that you are not affiliated with the police or the Red Cross in any way, and second, that you have nothing to do with the state. It is crucial to create the trust needed between the users of the house, that we are completely independent and self-organized. Secondly, we're up against people who are suffering severely from post-traumatic stress disorder, who are heavily medicated, and who have been forced to remain inactive within the system for years. These people have really been serviced in the worst kind of way, having some of them turned into almost numb vegetables. And to invite them to become part of a house where all of a sudden all their skills and resources and knowledges are not only appreciated but required, takes a lot of translation and negotiation. So that's some of the issues that we're working with now, us who have been part of the project for a very long time. Then there's the issue of language, of course. We have within the house right now only the capacity to translate material into 3 languages, which is not really a problem, because as soon as somebody requests translation into another language, we ask them to help us do the work. So being a member of the house really allows you to accept a number of services, but also to contribute actively in running the house. If nobody does that work, there is no house. There's no administration, there's no coordination in the house. If you don't do the dishes, there won't be a clean cup. It's as simple as that.
And so I think this also really fits in with what Stephen Wright rather wordily called a low coefficient of artistic visibility. And I'm wondering, would you classify this as an art project or a curatorial project?
I definitely would.
Yeah.
It's not important for us, for people to recognize it as art, but I see that the kind of space that we've been able to build together as this big heterogeneous group would not have been possible without these modes of engagement and these modes of analysis that art and curating, critical art and curating brings to the table. I kind of see it as a critical and curating an art when it functions as its best. I think it's able to create a kind of choreography within our common reality, and the choreography established within this particular space provides people without agency temporary agency. The second big what do you say, it's not problematic, it's what do you call it, when it's, the biggest challenge of the project, besides creating the circumstances for this trust to emerge, is the fact that the project is a permanent project, which is not so much a terrifying thing to asylum seekers. They're, accustomed to indeterminacy within the system, but it's very frightening to cultural producers. To commit to a project indefinitely is scary, and so the house has to be able to accommodate very young, active cultural producers who are interested in intervening in the space for a limited amount of time, and they can pull out, and then also to create the circumstances for people to feel that I can go to the trampoline house on a daily basis as if it was my school, as if it was my work. Yeah. And I myself have reached a certain age where I'm tired of the temporality of activist curating, and I find the challenges proposed by permanency much more engaging and interesting at the moment.
Yeah, because I think in art, just like in the rest of society at the moment, the project model has become the only way that anybody operates these days. We all work on projects, time-limited projects. But there's another project that was brought to mind, which is it's called Project Row Houses, and it's a project based in Houston, in Texas. And what that group of artists have done is, 17 years ago, they took over a group of derelict houses and transformed them into houses for local single mothers. And they also created small gallery spaces, performance spaces, and it's since grown, and I think it's now got 40 houses, and it's been going since 1993, I believe. So, a very long time. So it's another example of that. But I think what differentiates what you're doing from that is that to me is providing, the Project Row Houses to me, which I always thought, is providing something that we would normally expect the state to do. It's actually filling a gap that's been left by the state, that in a sort of normal functioning democracy, for example, particularly in Northern Europe, you would expect the state to take hold of. And also that it's based on a sort of service model. So that thing that I was talking about in the introduction, where art moves from a goods model, making a product, to a service economy. And I think what you're doing, it seems to be based on a knowledge-based economy as well. You're trying to produce knowledge about this and disseminate it.
I think it's crucial that the asylum seekers and refugees in the trampoline house enjoy, at least temporarily, a minimum of civil rights that have been deprived, stripped down to the naked life, according to Agamben, that they are. Therefore, it is absolutely essential that they are not regarded as victims, but as resources, and resources for them to educate themselves, to understand the culture and the legal system that they are within. Yeah. So I don't know, I keep thinking about visiting Greece this summer and not being able to pick up a bottle of shampoo and read, the declaration, what would you call it, the label on the back. Is this a conditioner, is it shampoo? And I mean, asylum seekers and refugees, like any visitor or foreigner, are facing this constantly, but they're facing this in relation to their case. Like, all the correspondence with the state happens in Denmark, and they're entirely dependent upon translators who are not provided for them on a regular basis. And when they enter the asylum system to begin with, they're not informed of a few basic minimal rights that they do have. So this is where the trampoline house comes in. We can't give them asylum, and we probably won't have any effect on their application process, but we can inform them of their rights, and we can give them the tools to figure out ways to navigate the system. And if the worst thing happens, which it does to 95% of them, that if they are deported, we can help them think in alternatives. So instead of being deported back to Iraq, do you have a cousin in Syria that you could go to? Is there a possibility that maybe you could have temporary residence in Jordan and so forth? Really just broadening the perspective and giving them the tools to become agents of their own lives again to some extent. I was talking to Lindsay and her family about this yesterday. Lindsay, whose house I'm staying at during my stay in Glasgow. And I mean, what fuels my practice within kuratorisk aktion and Golden Nielsen is of course indignation that there's so much exploitation and injustice, and as Arundhati Roy has said, the time has come even for artists and curators and writers to overtly take sides. Things are so gross now, they're so grotesque, they're so unjust that as she said, even the most sophisticated of us have to break this autonomy and start engaging in real life issues. So that's what fuels my practice, and it is a very rewarding practice in the sense that I have meaningful encounters every day, and I'm exposed to knowledges and skills that constantly are working at deprogramming my white Western privilege, something that I find absolutely essential. I mean, part of the drive is to become aware of my own blind spots, to my own privilege, my own inner racisms, and work at them. And I can't do that alone. As Mohanty says, I'm blinded by my privilege, so I need the help of people surrounding me to point those out. And this is what the work does. But it's also exhausting. It's exhausting financially. Kuratorisk aktion lives in a situation of precarity that most women find themselves in. We can't fundraise our own salaries, so we do this, full time, and then have the usual 2 to 3 day jobs on the side to pay the bill. And that's okay when you're 25, but when you're plus 40 and have kids, and you just don't have the same energy. So I'm not sure that I'm able to continue with this pace for 10 more years. And then secondly, it's exhausting in the sense, it's exhausting to get deprogrammed, to unlearn things on a daily basis. And it's connected with feeling shame and guilt and responsibility. And there's a famous graffiti in Central America that reads, "Every day I wake up on the wrong side of capitalism." And I feel like that too, that I was born on the so-called right side of capitalism, and I'm trying to do my best to tackle that responsibility that comes with it.